Welcome to the JCPS MTSS training on the Self-Reflection and Assessment Toolkit with a focus on the high-yield practice self-reported grades and goal setting. I am Dominique Dobson-Penn, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with Elementary AIS Schools. With me, I have Bo Burkett, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher for High Schools. Please take a moment to type the case-sensitive bit.ly into your web browser. This will allow you access to all the links for future reference. This slide contains components of MTSS as a whole. MTSS addresses academic, social, emotional, and behavioral development, focused on overall school improvement that is sustainable. Here is a concept map of the departments within MTSS. MTSS Behavior Department supports schools in implementing school-wide behavior systems and frameworks. The two frameworks used by JCPS are Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, PBIS, and the Behavior Support System Model, which is an alignment of PBIS and restorative practices. In addition, the team supports school personnel in understanding and utilizing classroom management strategies. Department leader is Sandra Hensel. MTSS Academic Department supports schools by ensuring teachers are providing all students with academic support that includes differentiation, personalization, and enrichment activities that are guided by the Universal Design for Learning principles, focusing on Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions and support. The department leader is Donna Lawson. MTSS Re-Engagement Department supports students who are transitioning back to their home schools from Minor Daniels Academy and Breckenridge Metropolitan. The department leader is Dr. Naomi Brahim. MTSS Engagement Department and the big ideas of what we offer drive from our mission and vision, focusing on core instruction or Tier 1 instruction. Our department leader is Dr. Naomi Brahim. Here are the toolkits we offer. This website is linked to the image. Students can accurately predict how they will perform on a given assessment. They have a clear understanding of what they know. Teaching students to set appropriate goals leads to higher student learning outcomes, which allows students who meet or exceed goals to increase their confidence. Students of color and students with disabilities tend to underestimate their achievement. The toolkit success criteria utilizes self-reported grades to ensure students accurately understand and assess their progress towards goals. The HYP definition from 2009 states allowing students to report their own assessment of their progress towards goals has demonstrated to be remarkably accurate and a predictor of higher achievement. However, there are two caveats. The effect appears to be less robust with students from minority backgrounds, and this assumes that the goals upon which students are self-assessing represents a challenge. In 2012, Hattie reformats his thinking, stating he would rename this learning strategy Student Expectations, to express more clearly that this strategy involves the teacher finding out what are the student's expectations and pushing the learner to exceed these expectations. Once a student has performed at a level that is beyond their own expectations, he or she gains confidence in his or her learning ability. John Hattie explains his thinking about student expectations in this short video clip.
Self-reported grades comes out at the top of all influences. Now what that means is, right now, I've taught a series of lessons, I'm going to give you a test. Now before you do the test, I want you to predict what grade you're going to get. Kids are incredibly accurate at doing that. In fact, the most accurate thing that we do in our whole system is they know how they're going to perform. Now that's great, but on the other hand, it raises a couple of questions. The first is, got to seriously ask why we test kids. In fact, my argument is very simple. The only reason you test a kid in the classroom is to find out what you, the teacher, has done well, what you haven't done well, and with whom. There's not much point doing it for the kids because they know. But here's the killer. What students so often do is they set safe targets. They say, for instance, like we used to do in our university days, well, if I can get a C here, I'm doing okay. I haven't done a lot of work, so just passing's okay. Or maybe I can get a B+. And they set safe targets. Our job, I believe, is to mess that up. Our job is to never meet the needs of kids. It's never to help kids reach their potential. Our job is to help kids exceed what they think they can do. And so understanding what targets they set when they go about their work is important, and our job is to say they can do a lot better, which means giving them the confidence they can do it. Obviously teaching them the skills so they can do it. If I was redoing it again, I'd probably relabel self-reported grades as student expectations, because that's really what they are, is the expectations students set for their work. And my major and loud message is that we need to get in front of that. We need to raise those expectations and give the students the confidence and the skills and the understandings that they can exceed. Doing their best is never good enough.
In the current toolkit, we use self-reported grades. Since Hattie has changed his thinking around the idea of it being self-reported grades to student expectations, for the duration of the presentation, we will use the term student expectations in the place of self-reported grades. How do we know this strategy will accelerate student learning? Typical teacher effect size lives in the yellow area. Student expectations has an effect size of 1.44, which means that you will be able to move kids 3 times faster if you use this high yield practice correctly. Student expectations has one of the highest influences on student learning. 2 strategies teachers can use in the classroom to help students develop skills for student expectations is goal setting and metacognition. Today, we will define student expectations and learn how student goal setting can support this high yield practice. You will discover a 5-step process for setting goals virtually and in the classroom. You will explore ways to customize this process and tailor it to your classroom. When students set high expectations and accurately estimate their performance relative to those expectations, students were more likely to achieve or attain these learning goals. Goal setting ensures students are aware of their performance and understand their achievement levels as related to their goals and success criteria. We need to provide students with the end in mind before beginning units of study so they can set their goals. This will allow students opportunities to measure their status in meeting the targets or learning intentions.
Student expectations and goal setting. Students are incredibly accurate at self-assessing themselves and are their best critics. When students set themselves realistic goals, then they want to achieve these goals, and therefore it builds up their confidence. The process of setting goals allows students to choose where they want to go in school and what they want to achieve. By knowing what they want to achieve, they know what they have to concentrate on and improve. Goal setting gives students long-term vision and short-term motivation. Having sharp, clearly defined goals which students can measure will allow them to take pride in accomplishing those goals. By setting goals, students can do the following. 1, improve their academic performance. 2, increase their motivation to achieve. 3, increase pride and satisfaction in performance. 4, improve their self-confidence. And as a goal-setting tip, create goals that effectively challenge students while still being realistic. This video describes 4 key steps for goal setting.
Thanks for stopping by. This is 2-Minute Classroom, and today we're going to talk about goal setting for students using 4 key steps. We all have goals that we want to achieve as students. Maybe it's to get straight A's, or maybe to get into a certain university after high school, or a high-paying job after college, or maybe your goal is just to pass your classes. Let me know what some of your goals are in the comments below and in the community tab. Now let's get into it. Step 1 is to select a goal. This is the easy step. For example, you may have a goal to get at least a 3.5 GPA in all your courses this semester. Great goal. Step 2 is to define your motivation. Why do you want your goal? Maybe you want a 3.5 GPA to be eligible for sports. Maybe it's to get into a decent college. Or maybe it's just to keep your parents happy. Whatever it is, the motivation is what will drive you to accomplish the goal, especially if you get discouraged. Think of it as your reward for accomplishing the goal. Step 3 is to break the goal down. So you want at least a 3.5 GPA. How are you going to do it? By setting smaller goals that build up to the larger goal. This could be things like take notes in every class, study for at least an hour every day, no late assignments, attend every class, etc. I can't overemphasize the importance of this step. Accomplishing goals is a lot like eating an elephant. And how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, of course. So breaking your goal down into bite-sized chunks helps you understand what you need to do to reach your goal and gives you the roadmap to get there. Step 4 is to write it down. If you really want to accomplish a goal, it needs to be top of mind. So you need to see it regularly, probably every day. So write down the goal, the motivation, and some of the main sub-goals and post it in a prominent place. This could be in your room, your car, your bathroom, or better yet, all three. I have my goals for my YouTube channel posted on the wall right in front of my desk where I work on my videos. I see it all the time and I'm constantly reminded of what I want, why I want it, and what I need to do to get it. If one of your goals is related to doing well in your classes, consider subscribing and checking out my other videos. I look forward to reading your goals in the comments here below and in the community tab. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
So to recap the video, the 4 key steps. Step 1, select a goal. What do you want to achieve? Step 2, define your motivation. Why do you want it? Step 3, break the goal down. How are you going to achieve it? And step 4, write it down so that you can hold yourself accountable. In addition to the 4 steps mentioned in the video, there is a 5th step that is extremely important related to progress monitoring. And that is that students must also check in periodically to see if they are making progress and or adjust their goals if necessary. The following vignette is an example of a teacher creating a classroom culture where students set goals for writing and continue to evaluate their performance in relation to those goals. Please pause the presentation and read the summary of the literacy application. In this literacy vignette, Mr. Pendleton uses goal setting to allow his students to develop strategies in their self-extending system, which will help them monitor and monitor their progress towards mastery. So how can we do goal setting virtually? You could have a daily check-in assignment that has students reflect and think about their goal. Is the data numerical? If so, it could be recorded over time in a Google Sheet. Students could insert a chart to help them visualize the change over time. You could use Screencastify to have students record and reflect on their goal. Or maybe a simple daily reflection journal would work. This could be set up in docs, sheets, slides, or forms. Just think about how you'd like to organize each entry. As an example, we use Google Sheet to set up a goal setting form for a class. So in this example, we have Johnny Bravo, and he's set a goal, which is he wants to attend class every day this week, stay focused and on task, and turn in all of his classwork and assignments. And then as a comment, he's listed his why or his purpose for wanting to achieve the goal. He says, doing this will help me prepare for the quiz at the end of the week, which will prepare me for the ACT and keep me on track for graduation. So the good thing about this sheet is that at the beginning of the week, he can predict how well he thinks he's going to do. And you can use any scale you want. The sheet uses a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being I didn't make any progress towards the goal, and 10 being that I went above and beyond. So let's say Johnny Bravo predicts that he will do 8 out of 10 this week on attending class and staying focused. At the end of the week, he can come back and he can assess himself. He can assess himself. He can think back to all of the days for the week and just reflect, did I come to class every day? Did I stay focused every day? Did I turn in all of my homework and assignments? And maybe he looks back and he says, yes, I actually did all that. I'm giving myself a 10 out of 10. Peers can also check in on Johnny to help hold him accountable. So maybe peers that he works with in a group each day. So in this sheet, we have 3 peers that are going to check in on Johnny Bravo as well. And maybe all of them say, yes, I think you did a great job this week. So we give you a 10, 10, and a 9. And then finally, the teacher gets to check in also and give him some feedback. And maybe she says, I think you did great this week, 10 out of 10. So at the end of the week, he's been able to predict his performance, reflect on his week and assess himself. His peers have been able to assess him and give him feedback. And then, of course, the teacher's been able to give him feedback as well. And at the end, he can come and leave a comment for praise, celebration, or areas of growth. And the teacher can do the same. So what does this sheet help students accomplish? Using this sheet, students were able to set goals and list reasons why they are important. That's goal setting steps 1, 2, and 4 from the video. Predict their performance before the week begins. That's what Hattie spoke about on student expectations. Assess themselves at the end of the week. Goal setting step 5. Receive feedback from their peers and also give feedback to others. That's an opportunity to respond from our MTSS Toolkit 6. Receive feedback from their teacher about what they're doing well and also possible areas of growth. And all of this helps to increase awareness and accountability and improves classroom culture. This is another video showing the power of goal setting in a classroom.
Goal setting is where my students actually create goals on Post-its and post them up in a public space in the classroom. The goals can be academically based, they can be content based, they can be personal or character based, or even just kind of like a goal that they're trying to manage and that they're thinking about at that current moment. The freedom and flexibility of it has really led to a lot of my students just making goals naturally. Some of them don't create as many Post-its as they once did, but they have clear goals that they're driving towards in whatever it is that they're doing. In my classroom, I'm asking my students to do a lot of the choosing and a lot of the picking of whatever they're going to be doing. And almost as an accountability tool, I really needed there to be some kind of overarching goal that they were building towards and really trying to reach or attain. And that was kind of the original idea behind goal setting and kind of sticking up your goals in a public place and saying, well, this is what I'm going to be about for the next week, and this is how I'm going to make sure that I get there. So it was a natural bridge to a lot of the blended learning strategies that we use. But even further, I think that as a cultural tool, it was really important for me to make sure that the students felt like this was a safe place. And that act of having, your business out there in public and even us having discussions around it, like, oh man, Johnny's goal is an excellent goal. He's really thinking about how he can push his writing to the next level. It's something that the other kids learn from, and it's something the other kids then, you'll see them making goals around those things too when they weren't even thinking about that before. We got some goal setting to do, right? Remember, we want to try to make some SMART goals. That's the whole point, SMART goals. Anybody can say be good. When I ask a kindergartner, all right, what are you going to be today? They say be good. And then an hour later, I see them in the office in trouble. That's because they didn't make a SMART goal. SMART goal means that it's specific, like we're going to be able to really tell what you're doing. So instead of saying, I'm going to do well in math, you say, oh, I'm going to try to focus and pass my quiz on multiplying fractions. Specific. It needs to be measurable, meaning I should be able to measure it. I should not be able to see a goal that says, like, I'm going to work hard. What's that mean? I can't measure that. But you could tell me that you're going to get a 95% or better on your class dojo this week. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I can measure that, right? It also has to be something that's attainable. I want to make $1 million. I mean, maybe it's attainable, right? Maybe $1 million dojo dollars if you do enough drive work. But other than that, that's not an attainable goal. And it's also not an R, relevant. It's not about this classroom, and it's not about what we're about. So it needs to be about us. It needs to be about you in this environment. And then last, it has to be time bound. And take 3 minutes to write yourself a SMART goal. To save time, don't come up here and post it yourself. Just once you're done, you can write your name on it, slide it to your state governor, and then all at once, we'll be able to come up here and do it. I'm gonna grab and borrow one, all right? This strategy is great for really any age, but as you know, fifth graders, they're really starting to enter that next stage of development in their life, and giving them the freedom to say like, well, hey, like I'm in control of my life right now. Like, wait, when I go home, I make decisions about what I'm gonna do. And I need to make sure that those decisions are driving me towards something. I would always say, you know, for my students, our theme this year was get where you wanna go. And really just making it that simple, black and white, right? Like, I want to go to this point in the next week. This is what I think I have to do to get there. We'll try it out, and then we'll reflect afterward to see if we actually did it. And by tying in the classroom economy into it and everything else, it was a really fluid transition from, okay, like this is who I am as a person, and this is who I want to be. I would say that my kids really enjoy setting goals for themselves, but more than that, they kind of view it almost as like a ritual, almost cultish, right? It's time to write goals, it's time to set our goals. Well, that's a serious endeavor, and it's one that you really see them think about with so many avenues that they can go in. You know, at first I would see them do something really simplistic, like I'm gonna behave, or I'm gonna be good. But then as they realize the opportunities and the different areas that they can really focus themselves on, you got goals like, well, today or this week I want to be able to read at an ORF 127. Or this week I want to be able to get a 90% or better on my class dojo. Really specific and targeted goals that they could then create action plans around. In the future, to implement goal setting, I think that I would like to digitize it more. This is something that we started to do at the end of the year, but I think that, you know, when you're talking to kids about how much they've grown, it's almost like they don't believe you because they're living their life from second to second, and we view their lives as, oh, this is how you were in October, and this is how you are in June. And to have a ability or a way to just show them that would be a lot more powerful than, you know, kind of like taking down the Post-its on Friday.
Some of the key points from the video are to model, model, model. Students become self-aware of their learning and take ownership of their learning. Creating clear action steps. Goals do not just have to be academic focused. Students can focus on personal or character-based goals, just to name a few. Providing your students with immediate feedback, or having a time to check in with them with their peers or even with yourself to make sure that you're guiding them in the right track. And creating that safe place for students to be able to reflect and set those goals within your classroom. Here is a sample student goal setting sheet. This goal setting sheet helps students be able to track in multiple areas. It helps guide students to create their academic, social, or a different type of goal. Make sure that you tweak this and make this your own in order to fit your students' needs or your class needs as you see fit. You can't accelerate learning with poor instructional practices in place. You can't have strong instruction if you can't effectively support unfinished learning. Therefore, it is important to develop your leaders and teachers on the concept and best practices of accelerated learning and strong instruction. Learning doesn't happen at the expense of responsive teaching or vice versa. The core part of strong instruction is responding to the cultural, social, and emotional needs of students while employing curriculum-based assessments that are culturally responsive. If instructional practices leave students feeling displaced, invisible, or unsafe, accelerated learning can't happen. Likewise, by adapting a growth mindset and having trauma-informed instruction in cultural and social emotional responsiveness do not require forfeiting your strong grade level alignment instruction while utilizing open-ended statements to allow for self-reflection. There are several resources linked to this slide. Feel free to check them out at your leisure. Some exceptional child education considerations to consider are to increase the opportunities for students to display problem-solving skills, use explicit instruction, guided practice, and model how-to strategies to problem solve and fill in the most critical gaps at the time that they are most needed. For example, collecting and sharing students' thinking around mathematical practices. Also, consider teaching students how to set goals, which allows them to self-evaluate their learning, which can aid in student motivation. There are resources hyperlinked to this slide as well.
Deeper learning considerations. Students must be taught to measure their own progress and determine next steps by tracking goals, self-reflection, self-assessment rubrics, checklists, and reflective journals. All of the strategies above help students answer the following questions. What have I learned? Where am I struggling? And what's next? For more information about the MTSS toolkits and other high yield practices, visit our website by clicking on the link.